I haven't heard a whole lot about what's going on with Amazon's new MMORPG, but that's not important. What's important here is that there is a questionable new MMO, and the reason is because you colonize the New World. The game is called New World. Apparently, there's some kind of like zombie thing. I don't know what it's about, but I'm fascinated by. I'm fascinated how you can't separate history, politics, racism, and all that stuff. Look, I can understand historic racism. I can understand how the United States was founded and the bad things that came with colonization, for sure. I can also recognize that video games are fun and that sometimes the games are meant to teach lessons about certain things, and sometimes we just want to experience some kind of historical theme. I grew up playing a game called Colonization. Maybe you've played it. It's a spin off of the game Civilization. In the game I played for DOS, you can choose to be English, Spanish, Dutch, or French. You come to the New World, you build colonies, you fight with each other, and you can also attack or support Native Americans. Imagine that game being released today, and there are updated versions of it, but here we have essentially what you would expect from the left when it comes to a video game about colonizing the New World. But let's see what they have to say. Maybe it's not so bad, and we can learn a little bit about a fun video game where you colonize the New World. If you enjoy playing Sandbox MMO New World, I enjoy playing Sandbox MMO New World. This open world adventure game teams with personality, teamwork, crafting, and combat, but New World is also perplexing and worse, problematic. Oh, they said the word. It's a team-based player versus player survival game with elements of exploration, resource exploitation, and expansion. I become part of a guild that creates our own culture, which can range from murderous warmongering to utopian idealism. But New World is also a sanitized reenactment of the European colonization of the Americas and elsewhere. It's a manifestation of the great white fantasy of virgin territory. I'm sorry. Of virgin territory and new beginnings. The game treads unwarily into a heart of darkness-like country of racist imperialism. Here's the setup. I'm a settler who's landed on the pristine shores of New World. I really want to play this video game right now. I'm really into it. I own nothing, so I scavenge and craft, I team up with others, and build a settlement. I specialize in warfare or building or farming or manufacturing. With my people, I defend our settlement from rivals. Perhaps I wage war, killing them to take their homes and their resources. Look, you guys know about my family history. I don't have a good relationship with the history of the United States and the laws that made it illegal for my family to literally exist. Okay, maybe that's a little bit hyperbolic, but cohabitation and miscegenation were illegal. But I can also recognize a video game. That's it, okay? Maybe the lesson should be not that it's problematic, but that people should recognize why these things are wrong to do and how we've changed society and how we want to move forward. But please, we can still learn and experience history and themes. I think perspective is important. There's a funny story I heard about some Native American who flew to Italy and then planted a flag and said he discovered Europe or something. I think that's hilarious. And I think it brings up a really interesting point, something I've understood since I was little. Maybe this comes from having a mixed background. But I remember when I was little and I came home from school one day, I can't remember what grade I was in, the first grade or something. And my mom asked me what I learned, and I said, we learned about Christopher Columbus and how he discovered America. And my mom said, he didn't discover America. No, he discovered the Bahamas. Like, he landed in the Bahamas. He didn't actually come to America. However, there were already people here. And I was like, oh, yeah. The Native Americans discovered America. Yeah, humans spread around and they came to this land, and just because some Europeans eventually found their way here doesn't mean that their culture discovered it. And that's something about the United States, which has its roots in European culture, so that's why they think it was discovered. It's very Eurocentric. I have no problem with explaining it to people and breaking down that other cultures exist and other peoples exist. And I can also recognize institutional racism, historic racism, and support social justice, not to the extent you have the authoritarian, wingnuts pushing it. But I do believe that racism is bad. We should get rid of it. We should protect people, expand civil rights, all the good stuff. The good stuff, not the bad stuff. And then I can say, after that, I hope you all enjoy your fun video game. Because this is what really blows my mind. Look, do I think that video games and movies and things can perpetuate certain stereotypes and ideas? Yes. Do I want to take away fun? No, of course not. That's the problem. A lot of these people who are, ideologically driven social justice activists want to strip the fun away from an experience. That's not going to help you win your fight. If you really think it's problematic to make a game where you colonize the New World, don't go to someone who likes it and bash them over the head about how wrong they are and how bad they are, how evil they are, the evil white man or whatever. Just be like, hey, let me explain some things to you, and then I'll play the game with you. And then when you're playing, you can talk about certain things they might not realize. My God, could you imagine how much you could share with a conservative by just explaining your point of view calmly and rationally and having a good time, cracking open a beer? It's like that Heineken commercial. I love that Heineken commercial where they work together, they secretly disagree and don't know it, and then afterwards crack beers, and then our videos play showing that they're like at odds with each other and they have a choice to drink a beer or not. Yes, I would give this advice to anybody who wants to change games or, is an intersectional feminist. Stop being so mean to everybody. Like that's just really, and this goes to anybody. I don't want to just single out somebody out. There's anti-SJW types who can be mean too. Yeah, just try not to be mean. Okay. Sometimes I know I should take my own advice because I get angry too and I say mean things. Right? I recognize that. I'm not perfect. But I think we can do great to just sit back, crack open a beer, and be like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I never thought about it that way. Thank you for sharing that with me. But let's read a little bit more of this. The game is set in a fictional landmass in the Atlantic located near Bermuda. The time frame is the mid-1600s, which is the same period as the first settlements by English colonists in North America. New World's colonists wear the sort of clothes and armor you might expect to see in a fictional account of the 17th century Europe around the time of the Plymouth colony. That said, the colonists are not explicitly Europeans. In the player character creation tool, which I have not seen, I am told I can select from 2 genders and a variety of races. Well, there you go. You can be presumably you can be a Middle Eastern man coming and oppressing and exploiting the Native American virgin territory. Maybe you can be a black man and do it. Being a colonist knows no race. Apparently in this game, they're diverse in their idea of Western expansion, colonization, and imperialism. I'm being somewhat facetious. So I'm not super interested in with their review of the game. I think it actually looks pretty interesting. I'm actually really interested in playing it. They mentioned old world pathogens. So, the more I look at this, the more I'm like, hey, this looks like a pretty fun game, I don't care if it's problematic or you don't like the idea of colonialism and monotheism or whatever. I'm just interested in playing something with fun mechanics and exploring, virtual fantasy worlds. Listen, I'm curious as to why they're not angry with World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft certainly has storylines of oppression. No, it's because it's real history. You can't just have fun. We'll keep reading. I don't want to. Old world pathogens. European settlers generally believed that newly discovered lands were forfeit because the indigenous peoples did not display Eurasian-style ownership and development. The settlers came to believe that these lives were worth less than their own because the indigenous people did not engage in monotheism or in North America, the building of cities, or the printing of books, or the forging of steel weapons. But I would point out, too, something to mention. The Native Americans, I guess they're saying, I'm not an expert on the history, didn't understand the concept of land ownership. In which case, if I come to you and say, is this yours? And you go, no, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to use it then. So then Europeans settled, built cities, started expanding, and eventually forced out the Native Americans. I think a lot of people view history as like the Europeans twirling their mustaches going, we'll steal the land from the natives, and like tying people to railroad tracks, an old-timey villain type thing. I think it was much less specific and more just dominoes falling over. I am in no way defending it. I actually think it's fantastic that we've kind of, as a culture, evolved out of those practices and instituted international treaties against expansion and, forcing people out of their lands and things. But I don't think the people who are settling here were evil. I think they do what life does. I don't think, there's some kind of weird zebra mussel or something that's an invasive species in Lake Michigan. I can't remember what exactly. It's like 10 years ago, 20 years ago I heard about this. I don't blame them. I don't think they're evil. I think they expand. It's what life does. I think humans can do better. I really do. But at the same time, I'm not going to look back in the past and criticize someone making a video game having a good time. So let's read. The indigenous peoples were susceptible to common old world pathogens. When first encountered by white explorers, they were often found to be in the grip of plague. To the white men, here was evidence that these wretched men, women, and children had been abandoned by God, marked by providence for extinction. They were the walking dead. And this is a video game that seems to literalize that disturbing metaphor. During an interview with studio head Patrick Gilmore, I put a version of this notion to him. He looked genuinely shocked. That's not really been a focus at all, he said. The lore of the game is that there's a tainted aspect to this world, that it's a Garden of Eden that has fallen from grace. You could argue that this is precisely how 17th century Europeans viewed the New World. And there it is. Let me just stress, apparently the developers view this not as, you know, the invasion of the west of North America. It's that it's a Garden of Eden that has fallen from grace. And then their argument is, aha, you've revealed your 17th century European view of the New World. The game is undoubtedly a violent expression of 17th century Atlantic colonization and ought to be treated as such. It is made and will be played by the heirs to that colonization. Oh my God. You know what meme I really love? The one where it's, I just wanted to play video games. You'd really be wise to let sleeping dogs lie. Some people don't care. They're not racist. They're not sexist. They just want to shoot zombies. Okay, they want to play a game where they can become a knight with a shining sword on an undead horse and kill zombies. That's so wrong. They want to pretend to be an old man finding a script within a workshop and battling zombies and making old-timey weapons. It's not always about politics. It's not always about exploitative Amazon. Maybe the game is really just about a new world. And look at this, the comment, great white fantasy. Oh, Polygon. You can, I know when I go to Polygon, I can always find something fun and interesting. They say a beta is planned soon. No word yet on a release date, or if the game will be free to play or standard purchase. We'll have more in the weeks ahead. And maybe I will. Maybe I'll play it on my gaming channel. I don't know. It actually looks pretty cool. Looks pretty fun. I'd like to check it out. But anyway, I'm done. I wanted to do something that was more silly and absurd for my last video because it's been kind of a serious past week or so. But thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this channel and 4 p.m. youtube.com/Timcast. Take care.